Hello, Abnormal Investigation. Got another encounter for you, and I hope that you all enjoy this one. Um, it's a little bit different, as I always say that, it seems like lately, but I think it's a good one, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. I'm working on a large project, and it's going to be set for a future drop. I guarantee you, this video ever drops, well, let's just say it'll spread like a wildfire. I grew up in a small town surrounded by endless fields of corn and soybeans. The nights were so quiet and peaceful. It was like the world had fallen asleep, Mike. We lived in a small town, and the fields and stuff, and the abandoned house that sat next to our house, it was a playground. I was 13 years old, and the abandoned house was a constant source of fascination for me. I would gaze at it from my window, wondering what was in there and what secrets it held within its old walls. The windows, well, they were like empty eyes staring back at me. And of course, being 13 years old, I had to explore it. One summer evening, I finally gathered the courage to explore the old house. I snuck out of our house, my heart racing with excitement and a hint of fear, the creaking of the old boards popping under my feet as I walked inside on the sheetrock that had fallen from the ceilings. As I explored the room after room, I discovered remnants of a life long past. Faded photographs, dusty furniture, and yellowed curtains that still filtered the sunlight. It was as if time had stood still, waiting for the family to return. I spent hours in the old house uncovering the secrets and imagining the stories that unfolded within the walls. As the sun began to set, I reluctantly made my way back home, my heart filled with a sense of wonder and awe. Our house was nestled among the fields, with an abandoned house that sat right next to it that was now my playhouse. At the back of our house was a deep ditch. It was more like a creek. Most of us did call it a creek. It ran into the woods. Its gentle, gurgling, and soothing serenade, the creek was teeming with crawdads, their tiny claws snapping as they curried about in the shallow water. I spent hours exploring the creek, searching for the perfect crawdad hiding spots. The sun, well, it shined off the water, and the smell of damp earth and the thrill of the hunt combined to the creatures' unforgettable adventures and playing in the cold water after a summer's rain. My friends and I would have crawdad catching contests, seeing who could collect the most in a bucket. We'd then release them back into the creek, watching as they disappeared into their underwater world. They were our pets, something that we looked forward to playing with. The creek became our own private playground, a place where we could escape the summer heat and lose ourselves in the simple joys of childhood. And as I explored the old abandoned house, I began to realize that the creek and the house were connected in my mind, both symbols of a carefree era full of wonder and discovery. Then I noticed, when I was at the creek, I felt like I was being watched. The feeling of being watched can be unsettling, even if you didn't see anything out of the ordinary. It's hard to explain. As I spent more time exploring the creek, I started to feel like I was being watched. At first, I dismissed it as mere imagination, but the sensation persisted. I'd turn around expecting to see someone or something, but there would be nothing. No movement, no sound, just the gentle babbling of the creek and the rustling of the leaves in the woods. Despite the eerie feeling, I couldn't resist the culture of the creek. I continued to explore, searching for crawdads and adventure, but the sense of being watched lingered like a shadow in the corner of my mind. I never saw anything concrete, no ghostly apparitions or sinister figures lurking in the woods, yet the feeling remained a constant companion during my creekside escapes. It was as if the old abandoned house, the creek, and the woods, well, they just went together. A life long left. I got up one night, and it was late. I was washing my hands at the sink to have a late-night snack. Now, our kitchen window was adjacent to the old house's kitchen window. And as I stood at the sink, gazing out the window, I saw something that oh man, it just made my eyes water. It scared me so bad. In the old abandoned house, a figure stood in the window. I could see its eyes, like the eyes in a deer, Mike. They were shiny. But it wasn't just any figure, Mike. It was a creature, a monstrous being that defied explanation. Its body hulking, covered in dark fur, and its face was twisted into a snout like a dog. Complete with razor-sharp teeth, the eyes, oh yes, they seemed to bore into my soul, filling me with terror I'd never felt before. I damn well guarantee you that. I was paralyzed, unable to move or speak, and the creature, yep, it was an effing werewolf. It stared back at me. Time seemed to almost freeze. And then, as suddenly as it appeared, the creature vanished, stepped back into the darkness. The window was empty, the old house dark and silent once more. The next day I asked my dad if he believed in werewolves, and he just laughed at me, so I kind of left it at that. A few nights later, that's when something very weird happened. It was storming and I couldn't sleep. I looked out the window toward Miss Robinson's house and I saw it sneaking around her bedroom window. She was the mayor and she lived alone. She was an older lady. I just knew it was going to hurt her. So I loaded my Powerline BB gun, and as I steadied my aim, I let the BB fly. This is the part I really liked. He says, I aimed my scope about 3 foot over its head, knowing that the bullet would drop, and I let the BB fly. Here is the weird thing, he says. It shouted in pain, but it sounded just like Mr. Clark that worked at the old store in town. And I mean, it sounded just like him. I couldn't shake off the feeling that the werewolf was a threat, especially after seeing it lurking around Miss Robinson's house. And the lightning, you could see it, and then the lightning was gone, and it was gone. I knew that I had to act, despite my dad's skepticism. As the storm raged outside, I laid there, wondering, did I hurt that creature? And was the creature going to come for me? And then I started to wonder. I wondered if it was the werewolf. Could it be Mr. Clark? Did Mr. Clark transform into this werewolf all along? My mind raced with questions and fears as I laid in my bed. I didn't know what to make of it, but I knew I had to warn someone, but who would believe me? I mean, Dad had already said he didn't believe in werewolves. So the next day I asked my dad for money to go to the store and get a soda and a movie. They rented VHS movies. When I was looking at the movies, Mr. Clark came in and said, Ever notice in werewolf movies the kids get ate? He laughed and said curiously, Sometimes, the kids, they would get torn up pretty bad, he said, and he would laugh. And then he said, Curiosity killed the cat. And he laughed again as he walked out of the little door that led into the room to where we rented the VHS movies. I tried to brush off Clark's strange behavior, thinking maybe he was just joking around, but his words lingered in my mind, making me feel uneasy. As I browsed through the VHS tapes, I couldn't shake off the feeling that he was trying to tell me something. Or maybe he was trying to warn me. Hell, I'm not sure. Ever noticed in them werewolf movies the kids get ate? His words echoed in my head, making me wonder if he knew more about the creature I had seen than he was letting on. I tried to push the thoughts aside and focused on finding a movie to rent, but as I left the store, Clark's laughter and his haunting words stayed with me, making me feel, well, hell, I was scared as hell, Mike. Little did I know, my encounter with Clark was only the beginning of a terrifying fantasy or adventure, however you'd want to look at it, but I was trying to figure out what was going on, like a young detective. After that encounter, Clark's demeanor toward me changed. Every time I entered his store, he would wink at me, a sly, knowing glint in his eye. It made me afraid, to be honest, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why. The feeling he gave me is like this old bastard hated me now. Years passed, and Clark's health began to decline. He eventually passed away, leaving behind a legacy of, well, strange stories and unexplained occurrences. But a lot of people in town said that he was a kind soul. He'd helped a lot of people patching their tires, fixing their cars, and he would let people charge, or even sometimes when they didn't have the money, he wouldn't charge them at all. He was mostly there to help, they would say. But then others whispered about his dark side, and you didn't hear a lot about that, but you did hear it. I never forgot what I saw that night, the werewolf-like creature lurking around Miss Robinson's house and Clark's unsettling behavior. But I never found out if it was indeed Clark, or if he even transformed into this creature. It just simply was something that I wondered. The experience, well, it left me with a lifetime of wonders and curiosity, but the one thing I know for sure is I did see the werewolf in the window that night. And I do know that it did sound like Mr. Clark. But can I prove it was him? Absolutely not. Maybe some of your viewers will have an idea. Thank you for sharing my encounter. Hey, thanks for sharing that. Wow, that's a pretty neat encounter. I'm not going to say what I think. I want to see what y'all think, and then I will interact with y'all in the chat. I don't want to put my opinion out there. Guys, thank you so much for supporting us, for just being with us, guys. It's an honor to me to know that the people that are with us, that you guys know the truth, have seen the truth, and it's almost evident now that you guys have discernment and you see the differences, and that means a lot to me to have a genuine crowd. And that's why we call you family, because family sticks together, and we look out for one another, and it means a lot to me. I just want y'all to know that it never goes unfelt. Thank you all so very much for everything you've done. From 2021, when I first opened the channel, until now. It has been my pleasure. Until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. And we'll see you on the next one.